Hello guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited because I get to hang out with Vanessa Norman today. I have a lot of respect, Vanessa, for the work that you do and the number of people that you help and the way that you break complex things into simple things so that NDIS providers can have their life back and have their business work well. Vanessa, what is a project you've been working on recently?
I have just introduced a new short, sharp 8-week boot camp that is purely focused on referrals and results. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Referrals and results. Is that because you're seeing a lot of people who are struggling with referrals at the moment? I know in marketing world that's what I'm seeing. Like, what are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was offering a more whole business kind of program, and I was finding that some people weren't so interested in all areas of business, in regards to systems and automation, staffing, all of those things. They really, their main focus was on how to get referrals, how to get results. So yeah, have basically snipped out just a little bit out of my 6-month program into a short, sharp 8-week boot camp that teaches people exactly how to get those referrals and results happening quickly.
I love it. So there's your 80-20 rule at work, okay? If you want, if like Vanessa's, here's the 20% to focus on right now is you want those referrals and you want to be able to have things work like that. That makes sense. Before we get into this, the truth is both you and I, Vanessa, we have been NDIS providers in the past. And they were good years, but they were also really hard years. Okay, both of us have served between us thousands of people. And it's an extraordinary privilege to do that, but it's also extraordinarily draining, and it's also you carry this constant weight of responsibility for others' welfare. They were hard years for me, if I'm real. What were your years like as a provider?
Yeah, look, it was great in the beginning when I was small, but I guess I grew rapidly, and like you say, that sense of responsibility, not just for clients, but then for the 50 staff members that work for you and their livelihoods, keeping their roofs over their head. As you grow, I uh, the responsibilities grow, and that can really weigh heavy on you. Yeah, from both perspectives, from the number of clients, the number of staff, and just it, it's like most things. The bigger they get, the more stressful they can get, and it doesn't necessarily mean the bigger you get, the easier it is, or the I just need to reach this particular goal, and then it's going to be smooth sailing and things are going to be easier. It probably is actually the reverse. The smaller you are, the more boutique you are, the smaller the problems are.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's someone that I've worked for who they had 50 staff at one point, and they explained that when they had only 5 staff, they were more profitable than when they had 50. Because
Mm.
NDIS world is different from other industries. It's a regulated industry. You can't just scale your pricing as your service gets better. Whereas if you're selling pizzas or hot dogs or, I don't know, vacuum cleaners, your pricing can go up how you want, which is why scale works there, but it doesn't always work in NDIS, especially when, say, you hit that threshold for payroll tax, and then suddenly there's another 5% or 6%, whatever it is in whatever state you're in, that you've just added to your wages. So if you've got a $1.5 million wages bill across a year, well, that just became, just throw another 75K at that.
Exactly.
And no one tells you that, So why do you think there is this push to scale, 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 when right now this is that you can do it and you can do it well, but it's not as easy as it was?
Mm. Why do I think there's the push? I think that there's two kind of providers out there. There's the providers who are in it for the right reasons and the genuine reasons that they want to help people, potentially they've been in the industry a long time or they have personal lived experience and they genuinely want to help as many people as they can and they believe that they can do that really well. And then there's other people who are potentially coming into the sector who are hearing all of these things that it's a field day. It's a gold mine. Get into the NDIS and start a business. It's a gold mine. And I find that even in the calls that I have with providers who are looking for help, I can clearly distinguish which of those two groups people sit in. And yeah, I think depending which group you sit in, that push comes from different reasons.
That makes sense. And the idea that people are going to come and get in the NDIS and make heaps of money is, it's not impossible. And there are avenues to do that. But the reality is it's not easy like it was back, say, in 2021. And so a lot of people tried to get registered or started the registration process a couple of years ago. They finally got registered and now they've arrived and they've realised, oh, what have I got into? You know, and it's like, it's really tricky because we almost get this idea of there's the good players and there's the evil players. It's probably like it's a bit of a spectrum, really. You know, everyone's motives are mixed, but in that we almost get this perspective of almost profit becomes a dirty word.
Mm.
How is it possible that we can have directors working 50, 60, 70 hours a week who still believe profit's a dirty word? What's going on with that?
Yeah, that's something that sits not well with me. And it's something I actually was talking about this in my coffee catch up networking event I held the other day or last month, in that it's okay to be attending networking events from both the place of building relationships, but the reality is you're actually there to connect with people to try and get referrals to grow your business. And it's almost like it's taboo to talk about that. It's taboo to have a profit when the reality is you need a profit to be able to have a successful business. You
Yeah,
need profit to be able to reinvest in your staff, improve your systems. There's so many areas that profit actually goes back into giving back to the community. But there's people on the other shoe who go, profit's bad and you're in it for the money and yeah, aren't seeing the 70, 80 hour weeks that people are working to have that profit.
yeah. It's sort of quirky, isn't it? I mean, no one goes up to nurses and says, "Hey, you're a bad person because you're getting paid to help people."
So true. So true.
And if they did, that would be quirky in itself, wouldn't it?
It would. It would that would be frowned upon. Like I think, and I think that's a big difference. Yeah, the NDIS is just it's a world on its own, isn't it, compared to other healthcare roles, industries, like you say, nurses, doctors, like how much are doctors getting paid? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really weird, and people have this idea, oh, if people took less profit, then everything would be better. It's like, no, profit is what gives people the cream that they need, the amount of extra money they need to spend well to help people
Mm.
and to grow a business. And it's like, if every NDIS provider disappeared tomorrow, what on earth would the government do? Like, we're actually serving people wholeheartedly. We're fulfilling a need. We're looking after people well, and people who are working hard like that deserve to be paid well. You
Mm.
know, and but I mean, this idea that someone's going to come in and create an NDIS business and very quickly make a lot of money, I don't see a lot of that in recent times. I don't see people succeeding at that. I see a lot of people trying and a few of them succeeding.
Yes, it's definitely the few, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Now, you and I decided to call it a day on our NDIS provider business. Okay, you now do coaching for NDIS businesses. I used to run an NDIS provider, and now I look after people's websites for them in NDIS or their LinkedIn or whatever marketing stuff they need. Now, you and I have fairly similar motives. Like, my motive is if I can come and take away someone's marketing problems, make sure their website's good, make sure that they know what they're doing with marketing, it buys them back their family time. Because that's
Mm.
my number one goal. I want people to have their family time because I know what it's like to not have that. What is it that drives you beyond the fact that you have to run a business?
Yeah, so what drives me is I feel like I learnt so much. You know, I went through all of the trial and error over years and years and years, wasting money, wasting time, spending time away from my family to grow my business. And I want to save other people that time and money, you know, going down the exact same road that I have previously been down. And, you know, it did get to that point. And I originally started my business because I've got four kids and two of my kids have additional needs. And it was to be able to be available for them at the drop of a hat, you know, at an urgent phone call from school kind of thing. And at the very peak of my business and at the end of my business, it was the opposite. I was working so much more. I had a full-time nanny being there for my kids. It just defeated the whole purpose of why I started my business. And if I can save people that time away from their kids because I've learned how to streamline things and how to implement systems and processes, but also save money and get their, you know, save the mistakes that I've already been through, then And also, a big thing for me is the loss of my business and the learnings from that. So, learning, I can tell you if I could rewind the clock 2, 3 years, there'd be some very, very different decisions made.
What would you
And
do differently?
oh, so many things. I would not have moved into a bigger office space. I would not have had such a large admin team or people as my business maybe my revenue dropped and we lost a few clients, then admin staff would have been made redundant a lot sooner than they were. A lot more uncomfortable conversations and holding people accountable to their roles, a lot holding my boundaries in terms of, yeah, relationships with staff and feeling like staff are your friend and you don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation because they've been with you for years and you just let things sort of uh, go by the wayside. And in reality, that's an extra, what, 70, 80,000, even more wage that you're paying that is coming out of the profitability of your business. That ended up resulting in, yeah, me having to sell my family home and our car and close up shop and start all over again.
I hear you. And you're saying if you could go back, well, one is you wouldn't spend money on office space or as
Mm.
much because when you're growing, you're always imagining, oh, if things keep going at this rate, I'll need this space.
Yes,
But then we've just bought ourselves an overhead we can't get out of easily.
exactly.
Yeah, and you talked about staff who they were right for you when you first started, but then
Mm.
later they're not the right fit, and they certainly aren't giving it the care and attention someone who is the right fit would give. But we keep them on out of this sense of I don't want to break staff culture or whatever, and like we are humans. We build relationships with people. We want to be friendly, but when we find that it's almost becoming a friendship, it's not a friendship.
No.
It's a work relationship. But
Mhm.
because we're heart-driven people in NDIS world, we end up making that mistake. I think find me any business who has more than say 20 staff who are not making that mistake.
Mm. Yeah.
And part of
Yeah.
it's fear. Well, oh, if I set some boundaries, I'll lose this staff member, and then there'll be a domino effect.
Yes.
Part of it's like, oh, I'd rather not go to Fair Work this week. You know what I mean? Like part of it, like we do all those dramas. Really, most of them are just shadows. They're just fears. But I mean, there's so many things you would do differently. And I've, do you know what's really weird, Vanessa? Really
Hmm.
weird. A couple of years ago, I was telling everyone it is an amazing industry to be here.
Yeah.
Recently, I've had two conversations with people who are genuinely thinking, should I go in to the NDIS? And I've said to them, that is crazy. I wouldn't. This is not the season. Okay, go and just enjoy your life. Don't come into an industry when it's hard. Wait till it gets easy again, or go somewhere else where it's easier. You can serve people in other ways.
Yeah.
I never would have said that, but it's just a hard season unless you really know what you're doing right now. Things are tough. So, how did you come to the idea that you needed to pull out of your NDIS provider business?
Yeah, look, it obviously, as mentioned, locked into overheads that you can't get out of.
Yeah.
Um, and the stress was rising. It got to the point of sitting in the doctor's surgery, going and getting a heart monitor, yeah, having a 24-hour heart monitor to find out if there was something wrong with my heart, only to find out it was anxiety.
Okay. What does someone do in that spot? Okay, I thought I had a heart problem. I'll actually get anxious. What do you do then?
Yeah, well, then you go, okay, what's causing me this anxiety and what is causing me this stress? And it was the insurmountable weight of running a large organization, having the responsibility of so many participants, so many staff, overheads that you couldn't decrease, but your revenue had decreased a bit.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, it was time to go, what is most important here? The most important thing is me being here with my kids, with my family, us being together, and me not having to stress about anxiety and worried to leave home and things like that because I, was getting myself in such a stressful state.
Oh, like hats off to you for being real. And it's interesting how when the pressure piles on for you, you feel anxious. When the pressure piles on for me, I feel stressed, and I
Mm,
find that I'll be like snappy with my wife and my kids, and like, yep, now quick go. And no one wants to be like that, and it sort of happens gradually. And then one day you realise you've had enough feedback from your wife and or your kids that you're not actually being fun. And you're like, how
Yeah.
did I become this? But you can't just magically jump out of that spot because the weight and pressures on you, they don't disappear in a day just because you decide to do 3 seconds of breathing exercises. I think a lot of people can relate to that. I think I can relate to that. So what happened then? What did you do next?
So yeah, I guess it was going and having a conversation with my accountant and deciding what the next steps forward were, and what my options were. Again, I wasn't prepared to walk away and leave people high and dry without supports and without jobs. So I actually, by the stage of putting my business into liquidation, I had two admin managers still working for me at the time. And basically, I handed everything over to one of those managers. So, gave her all of my systems, my processes, my IP, all of my clients, all of my staff, under the provision that nothing would change for my clients or my staff. So, my clients still had the same support worker that they had had for however long, years, for some of them, so that continuity of care continued for them, so that they still have the people that they relied on. So their world wasn't falling apart, even though my world was falling apart. It was hopefully just another day. It was just changing, to a different business name. Yes, it was a different leader at the top, making those decisions. But I could walk away knowing that I had done my best. I hadn't left people in the lurch. I had, yeah, done everything in my powers to try and ensure it was business as usual and life as usual for the clients, for the staff.
I hear you. I really hear you. And well done. Like, well done.
Thank you. Thank
You know?
you.
And for both you and I, these are fairly, like, if you look at the scale of your life, you got married how many years ago? You had kids how many years ago? This
Mhm.
period of time that you've had of not being responsible for your NDIS provider business has been a short one, okay? And you're adjusting to it. How do you adjust your identity? How do you adjust how you view yourself? One moment you're the queen of the world. Next moment you're the stressed out. Sorry, no, that's me. Stressed. You anxious. You're the anxious queen
Okay.
of the world you don't want to be queen of anymore, and
Mm.
it's breaking everything. And then one day it's over, and then what happens then? You used to be the queen. Now you're applying for a job at Coles. I don't know what your next steps were. Had,
Yeah.
what did you do there? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, look, for me, I needed a fresh start. I needed a new start. So we actually moved 2 hours away from where we were living. We'd just sold our house. So, we no longer had a business in that
Mm.
area. So we weren't tied to being there anymore. And for me, it was very much, I needed a brand new start. I needed to know that I wasn't going to walk into a client or walk into a staff member down at the local shops because there was shame. There
Yeah,
was there was a lot of shame as a business owner, as an employer, as a care provider, as a mum, as a wife, and just my own shame. I needed to work through that, and I couldn't do that in the same environment that all of those people were still in. So, yeah, for us, it was a sea change.
that is remarkably healthy. So, what would you say to someone who they're watching their profitability go downhill, and then suddenly they're not making profit, they're making a loss, and they're in that stuck point you described before of revenues down, our participant numbers are down, our overheads are going up, and can't wait to see what the award does next, and they do feel a sense of shame because it's like, hold on, a while ago I was doing so much good, and I was talking so much good talk, and now this, and then you suddenly start to feel fake in your own role because you can't then go and say, "Hey everyone, the here's what the Oracle of Zero told me this morning." You can't do that because you'd lose your staff in a day. But what would you say to someone who's walking in those shoes?
Firstly, see what expenses you can cut out and whether that's going to fix your problem, and get you back in the black. And if that's not doable, then just remember that this isn't the end of your life. This isn't, as much as it might feel like that in this very moment, it's not the end of you. You still have a beautiful family. You still have a life outside of that identity, and you just need to go back to that. Who were you even before you started your business? Like, were you a mum, a dad, a an amazing son or daughter or sister or brother or, uncle or aunt, that you're so much more than a business owner, and it's looking at those things. It's appreciating and having gratitude for those things that are actually the reason that you started, or partly why you potentially started your business in the first place.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what you need to focus on.
Wow, that's just really healthy stuff. It's fascinating how what happens over time is we start to think of our identity as our role. And
Mm,
identity and role are separate. Okay, so my role as a dad, my role as a husband, my my role is, if you're the leader of a workplace or the owner. And we blend those things in and go, that's who I am. It's like, yes, I am a dad, but that's not who I am. Yes, I am a
mm,
husband, but that's not who I am. Yes, like right now, I do help a lot of people with their websites or their LinkedIn or whatever they need, but that's not who I am. I'm me. I'm Michael. Like, and, and the thing is, what happens is over time we start to believe our own self-talk or our own like marketing of ourselves to the point where we think that's who I am. Like, honestly, just because I wore a posh shirt today, or just because I don't know, it doesn't change who I am. At the end of the day, who I am is who I declare myself to be, and I can declare myself to the world as whatever I want. But I declare myself to me as I'm Michael. I know who I am, and this is just what I do, and there's freedom in that. But I know that like a couple of times I've wrapped up businesses, and I've been like privileged in that when I wrap them up, it hasn't been with colossal fallout. But that shame you're talking about, for me, it
mm.
feels more like failure. That like, if I'd done things differently, I wouldn't have been in this spot.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just the market's changed. It's not even you, but you feel that failure or that shame. And you realize like 3 or 4 days later when there's no text messages coming from staff, there's no, oh, but suddenly I'm not that important because I never was. People were respecting the role. They weren't respecting the person. They were respecting the role. But because we were in that role, we thought that it was about us. It was never about us.
Yeah.
And that's that. It takes a while to get that. And then when you do get that, it's actually really liberating. You're like, oh, I can breathe. This is great. So when did you start to feel like you could breathe again?
To be honest, it probably took me, a good 3 months. I went and got a day job.
Well done.
Um, I only lasted 3 months in that.
Can you imagine employing you at that point? You'd be like, why are they employing me? Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
3 months is a personal best for you in employment.
yeah,
Well done.
yeah.
Okay. What else?
Um, and I guess it was in that 3 months, a lot of people coming to me and picking my brain and asking me questions. And I was like, and that happened a couple of times. I caught up with for coffee with people, or I had Zoom meetings with people, and I was sharing everything that I'd learned and how I built my business in the first place as well. Like, there's lots of people out there trying to build NDIS businesses who don't unfortunately make it. But I did. I grew a multi-million dollar business. And I also know where I lost a multi-million dollar business. And there's so much power in that knowledge. And it was at that point, after having a few meetings with people and going, hang on a second, I know some stuff, don't I?
Mm.
It was sort of, yeah, it was a realization that I can help people. Like, there's so many learnings from both the, you know, the climbing up the mountain and the falling down the other side, that I can share both sides of that with people now and help them not make those same mistakes, help them do the climbing up the mountain without the falling down the other side, and not having it make such an impact on their families like it did on my family. Um, so yeah, it was at that point of people coming and picking my brain that I really was like, okay, I think I know some stuff.
Yeah. And you definitely do. Like you
Hmm.
absolutely do. And it's hard to be like, oh, I know stuff, I can help, when there's that other part of you going, yeah, but do you remember when you were important? How much did you know? Because look where you are. It's like this.
Yeah.
It's like the voice of the enemy in the back of your head. You just like, well, sure, I stuffed up a few things, but I still know stuff, and I can still be helpful. The other thing is what you're saying. You and I, we both grew our NDIS provider business at a time where it was very easy to grow. So the challenge we had was, how do I get enough growth happening? How do I get enough staff to look after these new participants? Whereas right now, if you want to grow, firstly, we need to be like, hold on, we're not here to grow a big business. We're here to grow profitability.
Mm.
We're not here to, we do not need another Coles or Woolworths. We need another very niche business that serves a very specific type of person. And when we're not, why have our eyes been for so long on how many staff we have when it could have been on how many dollars are actually going into our bank? Because if you or I could be earning more as an employee, what are we doing here? You know,
Yeah.
like what's going on with this? Like what am I missing here, Vanessa? And why does this feel weird?
Uh, yeah, like you say, times have changed from when growing, back many years ago, starting and growing a business. And yeah, you're right. The market has changed in terms of you need to niche down. Marketing 101, if you speak to everybody, you're speaking to nobody. So you need to know who your ideal client is and who you serve best and stick with that. Because that's also where you're going to be most profitable is if you know how to do something really well. With the least amount of overheads, then stick to that instead of trying to expand into areas that maybe aren't your forte, aren't your skill set, that are potentially going to cost you money. Um, why go down that road?
Yeah, it makes sense. This is a tricky time, and I think there's a lot of people who'll be listening to this evaluating: should I stay in the game? Should
Mm,
I continue? And if our reason for continuing is because we wholeheartedly believe we can make a healthy profit in the next 12 months, well done. Serving people is great. Healthy profit is great. What is there to change? But if your motive for staying in the game is, I don't want to look like a failure, or there's all these people relying on me, or where will all these people get a new job? That's how people lose houses, you know?
exactly.
So what do people need to think through at that point?
Uh, you need to look after yourself first. So you need to get out. You need to get out before it gets to that point. Don't let it get to losing your house. Don't let it get to, those people will find new jobs. And as long as your offboarding process with your clients and help them find other providers and do great handovers, share everything you know about that client and how they like things and what they don't like, then that's what's most important. That client's going to be looked after. Those staff are going to find jobs because we're in a skills shortage in the industry. They're not going to be without jobs, but do you want to be without a house? And yeah, get out before you get to that point because the reality is the stats are something like 63% of NDIS providers are either just breaking even or are running at a loss. So if you're in that boat, yeah, get out before it's too late.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
And yeah, sorry.
no, you go for it. What were you going to say?
There's no shame in it. There, and this is probably one of the things that helped me too, was looking and going, some of the most successful people in the world have had so many business failures, and we don't talk about that's not the focus of them anymore. The focus is what they're currently successful at. So just because this door is closing doesn't mean the next door that opens up for you isn't going to be even more successful.
I get that. And also get you're in a period of rebuilding. And it's like, I view you as one of the most successful people I know.
Thank you.
Because you, sure, your business broke, and out of it you've got all these skills you can help others with, but
Hmm.
your kids are doing well. Your marriage is still on track.
Hmm.
Okay? The things that matter are right. Like, I've multiple times in my life, I've scaled businesses, and multiple times I've watched them have to break. And it hurts. But I've got a wife and kids. I don't care. Like, my work is my work. And look at you. The work you were doing is not there. And some of the treasures that you'd accumulated over life, over the years, aren't there. But what treasure do you have right now, Vanessa?
Oh, the treasure I have is driving my kids to school every day and picking them up every day and making their lunch and, going to the school disco last night and sitting there watching my little grade oneer dance her little heart out. Instead of being stuck in the office, maybe attending to some emergencies and asking hubby to go or yeah, just so much openness and availability to my kids, to my husband, being able to, I've got my school, I work school hours, 9 to 2. Like that is one of my biggest priorities is that I am there for my kids. Because after losing it all, after losing and having a nanny and those kinds of things, I realized I was actually just raising incompetent, maybe not incompetent, but I wasn't raising independent children. They weren't, they didn't know how to clean a toilet. They didn't know how to vacuum the floor or cook a meal. And those are the things that I'm teaching them now. Like, and it's sort of mind blowing considering I was in the NDIS space. I am in the NDIS space and we're all about teaching independence. But here was me taking convenience and shortcuts because I was so focused on my business and my staff and my clients that I was leaving my kids behind for their own independence. Like crazy. So that was a big aha moment for me afterwards was I'm not letting that happen again.
That's
I'm not going
exciting.
down that road.
Well done. That makes heaps of sense. It's like my son says, "Can you make me lunch?" I'm like, "No, Jesse, we're building capacity. Go and make your own lunch." Okay, like you sort it. And now your kids are going to benefit from that time with you. The other thing is the years go so quickly. My kids are 14 and 12, and it's not very long ago they were really little. You know, for me, I have the privilege of each Sunday afternoon I'll take my daughter out for lunch. The privilege of somewhere during the week my son and I will go and do something. Might be go to a movie or just have lunch, like whatever. But it's like I'm watching them grow up. I'm 3/4 of the way through my job as a dad. That
Mm,
scares the life out of me.
mm.
And it's like, what are we doing with our life? If our identity has become, oh, I'm this big business owner, I'm so important because I do stuff and people know my name. Well, we've already lost because the people who actually matter are the ones who are going to be at your funeral. How many people on your LinkedIn account, Vanessa, are going to be at your funeral?
Yeah.
So I think the decisions you're making are just remarkable. I think that the growth you've had as a person over this year is just, it's a game changer for the rest of your life. And I think that's probably a big part of how you serve others. And I do not know many business owners who find themselves in the spot you are and will proactively use words like shame or stuck or raising kids who, can't even cook chicken nuggets. I don't know, like there's a level of real with what you do, and I love it. If someone wanted some coaching from you, Vanessa, like you and I both do coaching, there's lots of other great coaches out there. Greg Chadwick, Paul Bryan, there's coaches out there, okay? There's no shortage of it, okay? But there is something about where you coach people where you're very focused on getting profitable, very focused on cutting the junk out of your life and the time-consuming admin out. If someone wanted a hand from you, how would they go about finding you?
Yeah, so you can check me out on my website, socials, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of the places. Even on YouTube, I've got some videos that go up on YouTube. So vanessanorman.com.au or LinkedIn, Vanessa Norman.
I love it. And thank you so much for your time with me today. I feel like this has been the most important podcast we've made in ages. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So welcome. All right, guys, that's Vanessa Norman. Track her down. If you can't track her down, you can either build capacity or you can get in touch with me and I'll put you in touch with her. Either way. All right. Thanks so much, Vanessa. Love your work.
Thanks.